All right, get ready, because today we're going deep on a real what if in aviation history.
One that'll have you wondering how things could have been so different.
We're talking about the X-44 Manta.
A super advanced, like way ahead of its time, tailless version of the F-22.
It was meant for total air superiority.
Straight out a sci-fi movie.
But there's a twist.
It never actually got built.
Canceled in the early 2000s.
And that's what's so interesting about the X-44.
It's more than just a cool concept that never was.
It shows how military tech really works.
Sometimes innovation doesn't mean actually building something.
So many factors, budgets, risks.
And the world always changing.
Exactly.
So rewind with me for a sec.
Okay.
Cold War. U.S. and the Soviets.
A real chess match in the skies.
Jets like the Sukhoi Su-27 and MiG-29.
The Soviets were pushing the limits.
The U.S. needed to stay ahead.
Enter the F-22 program.
Right.
Yep. And even back then, analysts were saying the F-15 and F-16 were going to be vulnerable.
Seriously.
Yeah, crazy to think about now.
Shows how military tech is always evolving.
Like a constant leapfrog game.
So that brings us to the X-44. Ready for this?
Lay it on me.
No tail.
Yep.
No rudder. Pure innovation.
Wild.
It's all about 3D thrust vectoring.
How do you even fly without a tail?
Right. 3D thrust vectoring means you direct the engine exhaust.
To control the plane.
Exactly.
Like a rocket, but way more maneuverable.
Think of the maneuvers, stuff you'd only see in a video game.
The X-44 could have pulled off some crazy moves.
Must have had some serious advantages.
Oh, tons. Starting with stealth.
No tail. Smaller radar signature.
Practically invisible. A ghost.
Then fuel efficiency.
Less drag, longer range.
And, of course, payload.
Wider fuselage than the F-22, more room for weapons.
It was designed to carry the AIM-120 AIM-RAM missile.
Plus, 2 1,000-pound bombs.
With a lot of firepower.
A truly ambitious concept, pushing the boundaries.
But then, the big question.
Why was it canceled?
It sounds like a beast.
It does, doesn't it? But sometimes even the best ideas,
Don't work out.
well, they run into reality.
Budgets.
The F-22 and F-35 were already expensive.
Adding another experimental project.
Too risky.
Especially something as radical as the X-44.
Right, and then there's the whole risk versus reward thing.
Unproven technology.
Lots of testing needed.
And expensive testing.
Plus, the Air Force was happy with the F-22.
Makes sense. Can't just throw money at every cool idea.
Exactly. You got to be practical, especially with national defense.
So, timing and circumstance.
The X-44 was just ahead of its time.
A tragic hero of aviation.
You could say that.
But before we move on to the NGAD,
Okay.
tell me more about how the X-44 even worked.
How do you make a plane without a tail stable?
Right. What were the engineering challenges?
Well, a tailless fighter might sound simple.
But it's not.
The engineering behind it is crazy complicated.
I bet.
Let's start with stability. Most planes use their tails and rudders.
To stay stable.
Right. The X-44 had to do it completely differently.
And how did they do it?
They designed the wings in a special shape.
Like what?
It's called a cranked kite configuration.
You heard of that?
And they used advanced computer-controlled fly-by-wire systems.
So that's how it stayed stable without a tail.
Exactly. And remember that 3D thrust vectoring we talked about?
Yeah.
That was key for stability, too.
Makes sense.
By controlling the engine exhaust, they could adjust the pitch, roll, and yaw.
Replacing the functions of the tail.
Revolutionary stuff.
Packing so much innovation into one plane.
But with complexity comes challenges.
Oh, I bet. Building a tailless fighter jet.
Not easy. One of the biggest challenges was the flight control software.
To manage that unique configuration.
Exactly. And remember, this was the late 90s, early 2000s.
Computers weren't as powerful then.
They had to develop some seriously intricate algorithms.
To make sure the X-44 could fly safely.
And stably.
It's amazing how far computing has come.
No kidding. Another challenge was the 3D thrust vectoring system.
Yeah, getting the engines powerful enough.
And designing nozzles that could direct the thrust.
Must have taken some serious advancements in materials and propulsion.
It did.
So not just aerodynamics and software.
Engine technology, too.
A testament to human ingenuity.
Absolutely. And even though the X-44 never really flew,
The lessons learned had an impact,
a big one.
in fact.
Some of those ideas might be alive.
You mean?
In a program you might have heard of. The NGAD.
Ah, yes. The NGAD. But before we get into that,
Okay.
what if the X-44 hadn't been canceled?
What if?
How would it have changed air combat?
Well, if it had been deployed,
Yeah.
we might have seen a totally different kind of air combat.
How so?
The stealth and maneuverability would have given it a huge edge.
Against conventional aircraft.
Imagine a squadron of X-44s
Appearing out of nowhere.
dodging everything,
Precision strikes.
then disappearing.
It would have changed everything.
It could have revolutionized air-to-air combat.
But history had other plans.
Right.
The X-44, a what if?
But its influence might not be gone completely.
You mean those leaked photos?
The ones from Lockheed Martin's testing facility?
The ones that look like a tailless design.
Exactly. It's still hush-hush.
But people are saying the X-44's legacy might live on.
In the NGAD program.
Wow. Could those old ideas be shaping the future?
We'll have to see. But first, a quick break.
Okay, sounds good. We'll be right back.
Looking forward to diving into those 6th-generation fighter jets.
And seeing what the future holds for air dominance.
Absolutely.
All right, we're back and ready to unpack this NGAD, the Next Generation Air Dominance Program.
The Air Force's big secret project.
Their 6th-generation fighter jet.
The one that'll replace the F-22 eventually.
And maybe, just maybe,
It's got some X-44 DNA in it.
that would be something.
Taking a concept that was too radical.
And using it for the most advanced fighter jet ever.
That's the idea.
But before we go there, what do we actually know about the NGAD?
Not much, officially.
I've heard all sorts of things.
Stealthy mothership.
Flying supercomputer.
It's all very hush-hush.
So what's the reality check?
Well, from what we've gathered,
Leaks.
official statements, expert analysis, yeah.
Okay.
A few things stand out. First, stealth.
Gotta have stealth.
But we're talking next-level stealth.
Like, how stealthy?
Maybe even more advanced than the B-2 bomber.
Wow. Practically invisible to radar.
A ghost in the sky.
What else?
Sensor fusion.
Not just basic radar and infrared.
Oh, no. We're talking a whole suite of advanced sensors
Collecting tons of data.
from all over the airspace.
Like having eyes everywhere.
A 360-degree view of the battlefield.
And a supercomputer to make sense of it all.
Helping the pilot make decisions in a split second.
It's more than just speed and stealth then.
It's about information, having the upper hand.
You mentioned AI-powered drone wingmen earlier.
Right.
Sounds like sci-fi.
It does, but it's becoming reality.
So the NGAD will have its own little drone army.
Think of it as a swarm of unmanned drones.
Each with their own sensors and weapons.
Exactly.
Acting as extensions of the NGAD.
Scouting, jamming enemy radars.
Even attacking on their own.
All controlled by the pilot.
So it's a whole network of flying machines working together.
A coordinated dance, you could say.
This NGAD is a whole new way of thinking about air combat.
It's not just about individual jets anymore.
It's about a network, an integrated approach.
Like a special forces team versus a lone wolf.
Pretty powerful stuff.
So we've talked about what the NGAD is supposed to do.
Be the ultimate air superiority platform.
But who's building it?
That's the next question.
It's a battle between the giants
Boeing,
and Lockheed Martin.
F-18 versus F-35.
The stakes are high. Billions of dollars.
And national security.
Exactly.
So back to the X-44 for a sec.
Okay.
If its ideas really did make it into the NGAD,
That would be quite a legacy.
for a program that never even flew,
It would show that sometime.
the best ideas just need time.
The X-44 was ahead of its time.
The tech wasn't there. The budget wasn't there.
And maybe the world just wasn't ready for it.
But maybe the NGAD is that time.
It's possible. Technology has come a long way.
Since the X-44 was canceled.
And the NGAD could be.
The culmination of all that progress.
Bringing those old ideas to life.
And changing everything we know about air combat.
That's the hope.
So will we actually see a tailless fighter jet in the sky?
Are those leaked photos real?
Or is it something even more radical?
We'll have to wait and see.
But one thing's for sure.
The future of air combat is going to be different.
Unmanned systems. Artificial intelligence.
Hypersonic speeds. Battles in multiple domains.
It's a whole new world.
And the X-44, even though it was canceled,
Might have been a glimpse of that future.
it showed us what might be possible.
But let's get back to those leaked photos for a minute.
Okay.
What are we actually looking at?
Well, they're blurry,
Taken from far away.
but there are some clues.
Like,
The lack of a tail.
you can see that.
It's pretty clear. A sleek, blended wing body design.
Kind of like the X-44.
People are also talking about advanced materials.
Making it even lighter and stealthier.
It seems like they're pushing the limits.
The NGAD is a technological marvel.
But what about the software?
The brains of the operation.
Sensor fusion, drone control.
It takes a lot of processing power.
We're talking supercomputer levels here.
To process all that data. Make decisions. Control the drones.
It's like a flying brain, analyzing threats, identifying targets.
And coordinating attacks in real time.
The pilot becomes more of a...
A conductor?
Exactly. Managing the orchestra of systems.
Human intuition combined with AI.
That's the future of air combat.
Pretty amazing, isn't it?
And we've only just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to learn about the NGAD.
Its capabilities, its impact.
And its connection to the X-44.
But that's for another time.
For now, let's step back for a second.
Right.
Think about the big picture.
What do you mean?
What does the story of the X-44 tell us about innovation?
That's a good question.
Is it just a straight line?
Constant progress?
Or is it more?
Unpredictable.
Leaps and bounds. Driven by visionaries.
And necessity. And maybe even a bit of luck.
It really makes you think.
What other crazy ideas are out there?
Locked away in some lab.
Just waiting to be discovered.
Maybe someday we'll look back and laugh.
At what we used to think was impossible.
Let's bring it back to our listeners for a sec.
Okay.
What's the big takeaway from the X-44 story?
A plane that was just too far ahead of its time.
What can we learn from that?
I think it shows that innovation.
Yeah.
It's not always about the brightest ideas.
It's about timing.
Exactly.
That right idea at the right time.
The X-44 was amazing.
Technologically.
But the world wasn't ready.
The tech wasn't there yet.
The money wasn't there.
And maybe even more importantly,
the need wasn't there.
so the seed.
Needs the right conditions to grow.
The X-44 had potential.
But the environment wasn't right.
Mhm.
Just maybe.
The NGAD is that perfect environment.
Could be.
Think about how far technology has come.
Since the X-44 was canceled.
The NGAD might be the result of all that progress.
Taking those old ideas.
And finally giving them a chance.
To change everything.
It's pretty amazing to think.
That a program that was considered a failure
The X-44
might have paved the way.
for one of the biggest advancements in aviation.
It shows you the power of human ingenuity.
And that drive to keep pushing forward.
Even when an idea doesn't work right away.
It can still inspire.
And lead to incredible things down the road.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
one last question for our listeners.
Shoot.
Will we ever see a tailless fighter jet?
Ruling the skies.
Or will it always be a what if?
A glimpse of a future that never happened.
It's a question I keep coming back to.
Me too.
And I don't have the answer.
But I know one thing.
What's that?
We'll never stop trying to rule the sky.
That strive for air dominance.
Will push us to keep innovating.
To challenge what we think is possible.
And to create machines that seem like they're from the future.
Maybe years from now.
Look back and laugh.
At how we used to think a tailless fighter was crazy.
Until then, keep your eyes open.
For those leaked photos and secret reports.
The future of air combat is being written right now.
It's going to be exciting.
Absolutely.
That's it for this deep dive.
From the X-44 to the NGAD.
We've explored the evolution of fighter jets.
And taken a look at what the future might hold.
It's been a journey full of twists and turns.
And those what-ifs that make you wonder.
What could have been.
And what might still be.
Thanks for joining us.
Keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
And keep looking up.
You never know what you might find.